Hey guys, Jordan here, coming at you with a new video. In today's video, we'll talk about the Daytona road course, Bubba Wallace's future. So let's get into the video. Before we get into today's news, I wanted to talk about two things. One, the name of this series or the show. Still coming up with a couple names. The two most popular are probably The High Side or Against the Wall. There's a couple others, and I would love to get y'all's input on some of the final names I'm thinking about. I'll leave a poll card annotation up above, I believe on this side. And so you guys can put your vote in and let me know what you guys think. Secondly, I wanted to mention that I stream live on Twitch in the evenings, typically Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and occasionally on the weekends. We stream a lot of iRacing, so of course, if you're watching this video and you're into NASCAR, you'll want to check that out. Come hang out with me. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you guys in the next stream. But anyways, let's get into the actual news of the video. So the first thing I want to talk about was the Daytona road course. Of course, as you guys know, NASCAR is racing on there for the very first time. The race weekend that there's going to be 4 different series racing there is August 14th through the 16th. We'll have an ARCA race, a truck race, an Xfinity race, and of course, a Cup race. Because of research and simulations that NASCAR ran before heading to the road course here shortly, they decided to add a chicane coming off turn 4. I'll leave a picture up so you guys can see exactly where that is. In the simulations they ran without the chicane, people were going to be going over 200 miles into turn 1, which was a huge braking zone. Some simulations I heard were close to 210 miles an hour. And going into the turn 1 where there's a lot of heavy braking with these heavy cars, that could have been a huge safety issue. So NASCAR went ahead and decided to make the chicane. Here's a short clip with Ben Kennedy from NASCAR driving right through the chicane. Of course, I'll leave a link in the description for the full video if you guys want to check out the entire road course, but this is a good idea of what the chicane will look like for all the NASCAR drivers.
So again, hard braking. Typically we go straight down the front stretch. We're actually going to drive a little bit to the left, probably about a 30-degree corner here, and then a sharp right-hander. Turn the windshield wipers on. A sharp right-hander, pretty tight as you come through here. You'll probably be over the left a little bit, and then back down onto the front stretch.
As I mentioned, there will be 4 different series: ARCA, Xfinity, Trucks, Cup there that weekend for the road course. And the truck race will be 44 laps, the Xfinity race will be 52 laps, and the Cup race will be 65 laps. They will be broken up into 3 different segments as usual. Now, with this addition of the new chicane, I definitely think it'll add a new wrinkle to the road course that we haven't seen before. Obviously, we see the Rolex run on there, and I believe other series have ran on there in the past, but they haven't had the chicane. So I think having the chicane here in the NASCAR races in these upcoming weekends will add a new wrinkle and something unique for the NASCAR drivers. I would have been okay with or without the chicane in the road course. Either way, I think it would have been an exciting race. But I think if NASCAR feels that it could create a better, safer race, then I'm all for adding the chicane. But I think either way, this race is going to be pretty exciting. The second thing I wanted to mention about the road course is the fact that there's going to be no practice or qualifying for any of the series before they head into turn 1 in any of these races. Of course, NASCAR recently announced that there will be no qualifying or practice for any series for the remainder of the year, which includes this brand new road course that no one has ever driven on, at least in the NASCAR series and the NASCAR Cup cars or all the other series. Personally, I would have given at least one 30-minute session to get the cars, make sure they're stable, safe, nothing that wasn't thought of that maybe NASCAR missed that we could change before the actual green flag drops. I think there's a couple reasons why they didn't still add a practice for the Daytona road course. They do not want teams to continue to bring a second car to save the team's money. And of course, there's the health risk involved with getting people in the garage. But I still think that one 30-minute practice session, even if you spread out everybody amongst all the garages, however you have to do it. Personally, I would have loved to have seen a 30-minute practice, and I think it would have helped NASCAR determine if there was any last minute changes they needed to make to the road course or the cars to make it a safer race. You've never ran on this track and you just don't know what could happen. Of course, we saw when they ran at the Roll the first time on the back stretch to the little chicane, we saw multiple cars smack into the inside line and they had to extend it. And so thinking about things like that with these cars that have never ran on this course would have been very beneficial to know. And of course, for the teams to be better prepared to make sure these cars can actually last the entire race, I think that would have been beneficial to them. At the end of the day, I think we're going to see a great race, just like we saw with the Roval. The very first race was pretty chaotic and definitely a lot of unknowns. I think we're going to have a lot of that in this race, but I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting for the fans. I believe Daytona is going to allow fans to be there. I don't know the certain amount of fans, but allowing fans to join is going to be cool to have them there for an event for the first time. And of course, this means that we have one less 1.5 miler on the schedule than we probably would have had before. I know this race basically replaced Watkins Glen, but at least they didn't replace it with a Chicago or Charlotte or something like that. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a great event. Either way, I think it's going to be a win-win for NASCAR and the fans. Another rumor going around the NASCAR industry is the idea of Bubba Wallace going to drive for CGR Chip Ganassi Racing. News of this rumor broke when Adam Stern, I'll put the tweet up in the video, he says Bubba Wallace and his reps are exploring his team options for 2021, and while I return to RPM Motorsports, Richard Petty Motorsports is one of them. Another possibility that's emerged is the Chip Ganassi Racing and with McDonald's, per source. Both CGR and Wallace share McDonald's as a common partner. One thing to note is that Bubba Wallace's contract with Richard Petty Motorsports ends at the end of this year, which is why there are contract talks for Bubba. With Bubba Wallace's contract ending at the end of the year, him and his team are looking for options to race in 2021, as you guys can tell in the previous tweet. If he was to go to Chip Ganassi Racing, of course, it would be an improvement from Richard Petty Motorsports. As you know, Richard Petty Motorsports is a mediocre team. They typically run around 20th, although Bubba has, in my opinion, outperformed what that team is capable of this year. He's often been running in the top 20, sometimes even the top 15. I believe he's gotten a little more out of that car than he has in the... I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe when I read recently is this is statistically his best season yet. If Bubba Wallace was to go to Chip Ganassi Racing, I believe he would take over the number 42 car, although I believe Matt Kenseth and Kurt Busch's contracts end after this year. I doubt Matt Kenseth will come back just because he's getting older. He's the oldest driver in the Cup Series, I believe, at this time. And Kurt Busch has talked about coming back potentially for another year, so that wouldn't surprise me. So I believe he would go to CGR's number 42 if he was to land a ride there. So looking at Bubba Wallace's stats, he has 6 wins in the Truck Series, 4 of them coming in 2014 with Kyle Busch Motorsports. He has a full Xfinity season with Roush in 2015 and 2016. He had a partial season in 2017 until the team was unfortunately shut down. And of course, he's been riding in Cup ever since 2018 with Richard Petty Motorsports. But as I said, racing at Chip Ganassi Racing would definitely be the best equipment other than Kyle Busch Motorsports, but definitely the best equipment in the Cup Series that he's ever had. I do believe he's capable of winning a race in CGR equipment. I don't know if he could potentially make the playoffs, I think if he actually wanted to have a chance at a championship, of course, he needs a little more experience racing with the leaders, going for lead laps, wins. I think experience would go a long, long way. Now, an interesting little wrinkle I just came across in a Forbes article was that Richard Petty Motorsports and Bubba Wallace are looking at potential ownership for Bubba if he decides to stay with the team and drive for the team. Now, this is not the first time that we've seen something like this. We saw something similar in 2002 with Jeff Gordon when he signed a lifetime contract with Hendrick Motorsports. In that contract included a part ownership into the team. We also saw this with Tony Stewart in 2008 when he signed on with Stewart-Haas Racing. He became 50% owner of that team, and obviously we've seen the success that they've had. So it's not unheard of for a driver to take on ownership of a team. Now, I am a little surprised that they are exploring the options, considering, and maybe for a lack of better terms, Bubba Wallace's lack of success in the Cup Series. And again, that's not necessarily a fault on him. That's just the equipment they're in. But it would definitely be interesting. And I believe if Bubba was to take an ownership role in Richard Petty Motorsports, I believe he'll be around on that ride for a long time. And I can't imagine he would leave that ride anytime soon. So we'll see what happens with that. If you guys have any thoughts on any of this news regarding Bubba Wallace, let me know in the comments. Now, I like to end all our episodes off with some NASCAR Odd History, and this one was definitely bizarre, definitely a little unique, and I'm going to read it off here like I did last week. No one knows what happened to Bob Pronger, a NASCAR competitor in the 1950s. He disappeared early in 1971 and his fate remains unknown, though he's suspected to be a victim of the mafia. Now, I also did a little extra research, and it says on June 17th, 1971, when he disappeared earlier that year, the FBI dropped its search and declared that Pronger was, quote, missing at the hands of the mafia agents. So he is presumed dead, and due to his age, is probably dead now, even if he was still alive. So definitely an odd history fact that I was totally bizarre, not expecting. And as you guys could see, I threw a picture of him up on the screen. So that was definitely bizarre, something odd. Of course, if you guys have any odd, weird NASCAR history facts you want to share, of course, put those in the comments. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. Lastly, before we go, I would like to start answering NASCAR fan questions. So if you guys have any questions you guys want me to cover in this series, make sure you leave a comment below. I'll try and do maybe 1 or 2 an episode, depending on how many questions we get. And before we go, make sure you subscribe and smack that bell icon if you guys haven't already, so you don't miss future episodes. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I do stream on Twitch. The link is in the description if you guys want to hang out with me there. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next episode.